Doom the Dark Ages is just around the corner, and with all the newest info that's been revealed, in this video, I'll bring you completely up to speed on what to expect so you can be ready to rip and tear until it is done, beginning on May 15th. To kick us off, I'd like to mention that Marty Stratton, who is the executive producer at id Software, along with Hugo Martin, who is the game director, go on to discuss that the core values of id Software, being innovation, craftsmanship, and performance, will in fact be infused into every aspect of Doom the Dark Ages. This is fantastic news, as we haven't seen a new Doom since March of 2020 with Eternal. So, of course, we're all hoping that the next installment will be on par with or even better than the previous titles. The Dark Ages is being referred to as the most ambitious game yet from id, and from this point forward, I'll just be referring to them as id. You may or may not know that the Dark Ages is a prequel to Doom 2016, which is stated by Hugo Martin as a perfect place for brand new players to jump into the story, while also providing longtime fans with a return to form feeling. One of the main differences from Eternal and the rapid movement mechanics is that in the Dark Ages, you'll be a more heavy and strong tank type of Doomslayer that will feel more grounded and powerful over the acrobatics of Eternal. But this doesn't mean the Doomslayer will have slow movement by any means. Now, in the Dark Ages, some of the emphasis will be on strafing, just like in the original Doom games. Since innovation is one of the key components from id, as we step into the Dark Ages, we will be met with a brand new world, tools, and mechanics to get used to and eventually master. One of the first things we all noticed when the first trailer dropped was the shield saw. This will be the Doomslayer's bread and butter, other than his massive arsenal of weapons, of course. But it's not just meant for blocking. We'll also be able to throw it, allowing for devastating slices through our foes on the way out and on the way back, just like a heavy metal boomerang. We'll also be able to deflect enemy projectiles back at them, while also being able to use a shield bash at some point and even teleport to our shield after throwing it. But most importantly, we will be able to parry. As an enemy is getting ready to jump on or attack you with different moves, you'll have the opportunity to fully parry them, stunning them and leaving them open for either a finisher or other follow-up damage. Now, I'm not the best at parrying by any means, but I have been playing some Miyazaki games over the last couple of months, and you know, I'm getting a little bit better. No! Oh, dude, no! I was doing good! I was not parrying at all, that's true. So I'm definitely willing to give Doom's parry mechanic a try. I'd also like to mention that all of this will be on one input, allowing for continuous opportunities for challenge and fun without the need for multiple buttons or keybinds. I would like to take a moment to address the controversy on Doom the Dark Ages, but then again, anything you see on Twitter could be considered controversy. In the Dark Ages, we will be able to use sliders in order to increase or decrease difficulty that is suited to our own playstyle. Now, this isn't the actual difficulty itself, as that has its own menu to choose from. But in the Dark Ages, we'll be able to modify damage to us, the player, damage to our enemies, enemy projectile speeds, enemy aggression, the parry window itself, giving yourself a much larger or smaller window to parry depending on how much of a challenge you want, the daze duration, which I would imagine is our own form of being stunned, the actual speed of the game itself, and the values of resources. I know plenty of players have modified Doom in their own way with higher sensitivities or whatever else, but now these values will be accessible within the game itself. I don't see how this is a bad thing by any means, because if anything, this is opening up Doom to more players than ever by giving them their own personalized experience. And I'm honestly so excited to see a bunch of brand new Doomslayers go on their first rampage. Moving into the sweet melees. In the Dark Ages, we'll be able to choose between an iron flail, an electrified gauntlet, or a spiked mace, which are all also tied to just one input that's loaded with combos and upgrades for possibly the most devastating melees we've seen in all of Doom. Tying into this will also be a brand new unsynced glory kill system that is completely in our hands, allowing for finishers at any angle. But now for the guns. It goes on to say that the Dark Ages have some of the most ridiculously powerful weapons that they've ever created. And I know I am especially interested in that impaler weapon that quite literally thumbtacks your enemies to the walls. details. Next up, I want to talk about the HUD, as it's my favorite so far. We have our shield meter in the bottom left with our guns and ammo count on the right like usual, but the thing that immediately grabbed my attention is the health and armor are situated in the center at the bottom of the screen. To me, it just looks insanely clean. Doom HUDs have always looked very good with their simplistic, this is all the info you need style, but there's just something about this one that really sticks out to me, and I like it a lot. Now, with everything that we've discussed so far, I am more than interested in hearing what my fellow Doomslayers have to say about it. So by all means, in the comments, let me know. Does Doom the Dark Ages look good, bad, incredible, meh? I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Now, I want to take a second to discuss the Atlan, a 30-story mech that looked so cool in Eternal, and I just kept thinking to myself, when am I going to be able to actually pilot one of those? The wait is finally over in the Dark Ages. Once we are in the Atlan mech, we'll officially be able to go toe-to-toe with the Titans as we brawl against them with a barrage of punches and kicks, but of course, we'll be able to use Atlan-sized guns as well. This all sounds amazing, but what I'm even happier about is that it's been confirmed that this won't be some one and done cool mission and that's it, but rather a full iteration into the Dark Ages with abilities and even mini bosses to face. This is also the case with our cybernetic dragon mount that will allow us to fly around different areas and levels, even dropping from high altitude directly onto the mount, which is loaded with abilities like fire breath and Gatling guns. Oh dude, this stuff sounds so cool. Cue the intense Doom music! Although it's only featured for a short time, something else we'll be able to do to some degree in the Dark Ages is swim. Now yes, Eternal did have some areas where swimming was required, but it seems like in the Dark Ages, this may not only be tied to level progression, but also secrets and other obtainable rewards. So I'm interested to see just how much swimming will actually be required and how many rewards may be waiting behind the murky waters below. Of course, we have to take a moment to talk about the soundtrack, because without heavy metal tunes, there is no Doom. Although Mick Gordon will not be returning as our legend behind the beats, in the Dark Ages, we will be met with heavy metal bangers from the team at Finishing Move, an award-winning sound design team that has worked on games like Halo 1 and 2 Anniversary, Grounded, Crackdown 3, The Callisto Protocol, and many others. I am genuinely saddened by the loss of Mick Gordon's hand in the music for this next installment in the Doom franchise, but I'm willing to give Finishing Move a chance, and I can always go back and listen to that sweet, sweet rip and tear or BFG Division on Mick's official Spotify. Now, on to the biggest news of the Dark Ages, the story. In this next entry into the Doom franchise, we will no longer be learning the story through codex entries, but rather through the actual gameplay itself and a plethora of cutscenes. I'm incredibly excited about this because although I do love the very simplistic Doomslayer goes in, he grinds his enemies to a pulp, and then maybe he picks up an occasional voice or text codex, I've also always loved it when the story was told through gameplay, choices, and cutscenes. Some of my favorite games are Halo 3, The Witcher 3, and Cyberpunk 2077, so I'm happy to see this present in the Dark Ages as well. Doom the Dark Ages will be available through the Game Pass on Xbox Series X and S. It'll also be available on PS5 and PC through Steam. On Steam, the bare minimum requirements are Windows 10 with a processor of an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X or an Intel Core i7 10700K or better. You're going to want 16 gigabytes of RAM and a GPU of an NVIDIA RTX 2060 Super or an AMD RX 6600 or better. This will allow you to run the Dark Ages at 1080p 60 at low quality. The recommended specs are looking at a processor of an AMD Ryzen 7 5700X or an Intel Core i7 12700K or better. You're going to want 32 gigabytes of RAM and a GPU of an NVIDIA RTX 3080 or AMD RX 6800 or better. This will allow you to play at 1440p 60 with high quality. Doom the Dark Ages recommends 100 gigabytes of storage and mentions that an NVMe SSD is required. The launch of the Dark Ages on May 15th also features an enormous bundle on Bethesda's website where you can get a 12-inch Doomslayer statue made out of PVC that comes with the shield saw and a detachable super shotgun, iron flail, and fur cape. You'll also get a Void Doomslayer skin as a pre-order bonus. purchase, up to 2 days early access for the game itself, the campaign DLC, which will be available at a later date, a digital art book and soundtrack, a Divinity skin pack for the Doomslayer, Cybernetic Dragon, and the Atlan mech, a metal red keycard replica, and a steelbook case. This bundle is sitting at $199.99 USD, and for all the Doomslayers that want to check out the extra drip, I'll have a link to it in the description. I do also have this bundle set up on my throne if there's any Doomslayers that would like to contribute. It's of course never required, but always immensely appreciated, and there will be a link to that in the description as well. Now that you're completely brought up to speed on what, how, when, and where the Dark Ages is taking place, I hope you're ready to rip and tear until it is done. Your time is incredibly valuable, so thank you very much for spending any of it watching and or listening to me explain all things Doom the Dark Ages. And I will catch you on the battlefield this May. Load your super shotgun and get after it, Doomslayer.